Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Hot Boy Xerath, and this is my up-to-date guide on Xerath in 12.13. We're gonna go over runes, build, and some quick tips and tricks in the laning phase, so let's get into it. Alright, Xerath runes. So there's only really one good choice for Xerath runes, and it is going to be First Strike. So what First Strike actually does is when it is off cooldown, if you land an ability or an attack first, the next 3 seconds will give you 10% increased damage, and of that 10% increased damage is going to convert 70% of that damage into gold. And this stacks up really fast. So the main reason why it is so great is it gives us such a big income because we can do such a lot of harass, a lot of damage, guaranteed to proc it, and make so much gold during the mid to late game. So it can pretty much always get us 3 items during the game. So as for the rest of the runes, it is magical footwear just because it's such a gold efficient item. You can either go biscuits for the laning phase if you're having trouble with mana, with health. It's such a great way to get you through the laning phase, or you can go to futures market to get you to your core components even faster. It's really nice to have a good back and be like, oh no, I'm down 100 gold. You can buy this or get a pink cord with it. It's a really nice rune. And as for the last one, I normally always run cosmic. Now, as for our secondary, there are 2 separate rune choices I want to show you. You can either go mana flow with Scorch for the early game, or go gathering and play for the mid-late. But the other one, which is really good, is going into the domination tree and going treasure hunter. This can give you so much gold and give you a lot of money in the early game. Of course, you can only proc it once per champion, but it makes you a lot of gold. And you can either go cheap chop for the early game, give you an extra 10 to 45 damage based on true damage with your CC abilities, or you can go for the AP, which I normally like doing, and you can go Ghost Poro, so after a ward expires, it gives you bonus 2 AP, stacking up to 10 times, so you can get 30 AP at the end of the game. And for your basic runes, I normally go double adaptive. You don't need attack speed because you're not farming. And I would go armor if you're facing a double AD lane, or you can go scaling health if it's like a mixed damage. So as for Xerath's build, there's 2 builds that are my absolute favorite for Xerath support. And one is of course the carry build, where we're going to of course start with Spell Thieves, and your first back you go by Darksteel. But as for your mythic item, you're going to go Ludens. You're going to go Ludens into Shadow Flame, into Deathcap. And this is just going to allow you to do pretty much as much damage as you can to squishies. You're not going to deal that much damage to tanks if they do have MR. I would have replaced Shadow Flame with Void Staff. But this is kind of like the core build to deal as much damage as possible to the squishy targets. You can of course upgrade your Darksteel to Magi, but normally this is kind of like the core items I would be running, just because like you normally have Magic Pen boots with your support items that'll make you have 5 items, and then for the last items of course you're going to kind of just like fill it up with pink words. But normally I never really get to my 6th item just because the game's normally over by then. But this is kind of like core carry build for Xerath. Now, in terms of the other build, it has been kind of going around on, you've seen on like Zwag's channel and a couple other Xerath channels, where it's really fun. It's a Korean build. It's actually the Imperial Mandate build. This build is surprisingly really strong. The main reason why it's so strong is because it's so cheap. It's such an extremely cheap item. You don't get damage, like you don't deal that much damage by yourself, but with your teammate, the Imperial Mandate does so much damage. And a lot of people may be like, oh, but like the item has no mana. Let me tell you, the 100 base mana regen stacks up so fast. It's actually insane how much mana regen the item actually has. So you're gonna go Imperial Mandate into potentially Magi's if you're doing really well, but if not, you're gonna go Crystal Scepter. This will allow all of your abilities to slow, and that meaning that it will always proc Imperial Mandate, not just your W, not just your stun. Now every single your Q, your ultimate now procs Imperial Mandate. Really good for picking out on the enemy champions, super strong. And as for your last item, it can be anywhere between Deathcap, but majority of the time when I am playing this build, I tend to go the anti-heal item, just so you can apply it to the entire enemy team. It's pretty much a utility build, but it does a surprising amount of damage and I would definitely give it a try if you have not done it. Alright, so in this laning phase, we are facing a Thresh Lucian, a very scary combo, but if we utilize our range correctly, we'll be perfectly safe. So entering into laning phase, one of the very first abilities we want to level up is W. The reason we level this up is because we want to guarantee proc our first strike. Even though the Q can definitely help you push the wave more and has a shorter cooldown, it's more about just guaranteeing proccing the first strike so you can start racking up that gold in the early game. Remember, when you are playing support, make sure you respect the level 2. The level 2 comes on the second wave after the first 3 melees. So if you do see them hitting it first, make sure you do back off and don't die. You're all about doing small trades as Xerath. You don't want to do an all-in fight and getting hooked. One quick tip as support is always prep your ranged minions for your AD carries. AD carries can't last hit the ranged minions until they're first back. So just give your ranged minion one quick auto, so then when the turret hits it, your AD carry can easily farm it. This is probably the biggest tip I can give to you as a Xerath player is make sure you do the WQ combo. The W applies a slow, allowing you to almost guaranteed land your Q every single time. Don't just throw Qs out when your W is off cooldown and your first strike is off cooldown. Make sure you W, then Q. So if you notice in the skirmish right here, it looks like I'm slightly out of place because I do get flayed by the Thresh, but it's perfectly fine because I have minions between me and the Thresh, so he is unable to hook me to do an all-in fight. So in the long run, we do win this because we're able to do a quick trade with them. And don't forget, like, if you are facing a hooked champion, don't be afraid to put a defensive ward in the bush closest to your tower, so they're not able to cheese you just like they are trying right here. And remember, when their hook is down, this is a perfect opportunity to punish them. If you notice I walk up, throw a W, throw a Q. I did miss my stun, but it's not too big of a deal. I get slightly low, but I'm definitely not worried because Thresh, without his hook, is unable to really lock us down. So even though we won that fight really hard, I'm still playing a little bit back just because Thresh can always be hiding in the fog of war. We definitely don't want to get hooked because Lucian can still 100-0 us. We did save Xerath throughout the fight, so that's always a big plus. And this is another clear example in this fight that the second I saw Thresh use his hook, I play aggressive because I know for a fact that we can punish, especially with Exhaust. They don't have any summoners left, so we force an all-in fight right here. Sadly enough, the Mordekaiser was there, but we were able to pick up both the kills and a well worth trade for us. So now since we're back in laning phase, we did notice that they are starting Dragon. Make sure to rotate if your jungler does want to contest. Don't rotate by yourself with just your bot lane. If your jungler does want to go, you can go as 3. Luckily we collapse and do win this fight, but don't think to yourself that like you as your bot lane can just stop a jungler. We did this just because our jungler is there. Nice, good job team, well played. Chapper better, yeah! I don't think I can hold this. The big plus to the rotation, we did have the wave pushing into us, so we didn't lose much of anything. You should, as a support, try if you can to hold the wave. Sadly enough, this wave was ginormous, and I wasn't able to hold this wave. I was able to stall it just a tiny bit, so my Varus can get majority of this yes. So as we get back to the laning phase, one of the big things I do want to emphasize is making sure you do have proper wards. Make sure you have the pixel brush warder right above your tower, and if you do push your lane, make sure you have vision to be able to be pushed. Don't risk just farming and pushing up and harassing, thinking just because you're winning the poke battle that you are safe. Make sure you have the proper wards so you don't get ganked by the enemy jungler. One quick gank can change the entire outcome of bot lane. Sadly enough, I don't have that mini-map being shown right now, but we don't have vision above us, and we're making too aggressive of plays without the proper information where the enemy jungler is. You always want to make your kind of engages and plays with knowledge of which side the enemy jungler is on, because if you force an engage and the Thresh is just waiting to throw a lantern, especially with the Mordekaiser, is just not the smart thing to do. So what I'm really trying to say is be smart with your engages, make sure you know which side of the map they are on before picking a fight, and just play safe and play to scale. Help! No! Almost got it. Well, I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like if you did enjoy it, and if you wanted to see more of my videos, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell notification. Well, I do hope you have a good rest of your day, and enjoy.